Just watched Red One, Dwayne Johnson's new big budget Christmas extravaganza movie. And seriously, I felt that I was watching a Marvel movie. Everything about this film screamed Marvel. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Was this film any good? Let's find out. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Yes, so Red One, this new Christmas film that has just opened in the cinemas. It runs for 2 hours and 3 minutes with a rating of 12A. It stars Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, J.K. Simmons and Kiernan Shipper, who you may know from Sabrina, The Chilling Adventures of, and Twisters and stuff like that. The film comes at us directed by Jake Kasdan, who has directed Jumanji films and newer ones. New Girl, 7 episodes of, but he was also an executive producer for about 146 episodes of that, so the whole run. He directed Bad Teacher as well, and the film comes at us written by Chris Morgan and Hiram Gracie, who both have written, well, a lot of films starring Dwayne Johnson. So here we are now with this Christmas film about Santa being kidnapped, and Dwayne Johnson being Santa's kind of #1 security guard, kind of special forces kind of fella who has to go hunt him down, and he enlists the help of Chris Evans's Jack O'Malley, who's actually partly responsible for the kidnapping of Santa Claus. Santa Claus being played by J.K. Simmons, who for the most part of the film sits the film out in a kind of prison cell, unconscious, apart from at the beginning for a little bit and at the very end. Kiernan Shipper plays Grilla, who's this evil witch who wants to take Santa Claus's powers to basically build all these little snow globes that she'll gift out to everyone on the naughty list, that will imprison everyone on the naughty list and all this sort of thing. So Dwayne Johnson's Callum has to go on this adventure with Chris Evans's Jack in order to save the day, essentially. And on their travels they meet up with Krampus, they uncover the mystery of what's going on and all this sort of stuff. Lucy Liu is along for the ride as Zoe, who is the head of this organisation here on Earth, so to speak, secret organisation that kind of heads up and looks after mythical things that are real. So everything mythical is real, all that stuff does exist, it's hidden from people, and obviously Santa Claus here is the main object of the mythology here, the myth. But yeah, so this film here, you've got a star-studded cast, obviously. Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans, Captain America, Lucy Liu, J.K. Simmons as well as Santa Claus. You know, these are all solid actors. If you like them, you may not. But the main problem I had with this film, it is big budget, right? Everything, the money is up there on the screen. It looks pretty damn good. I can't deny that. The problem is I felt like I was watching a Marvel film, right? From the get-go in this movie, I felt that every visual that I was looking at was straight out of a Marvel movie. Okay, and I'll give you a little rundown on exactly what I mean, right? First of all, you've got the reindeer taking off with the sledge, and you've got like rainbows trails underneath, and it almost looks like the Rainbow Bridge from Thor. Okay, then we get to the North Pole where you've got Santa Claus's domain, and it's hidden by a big dome, an invisible dome. I'm thinking Wakanda at this point. Then when they go inside, there's a long bridge, a very long bridge leading up to this big kind of pointy castle type building in the middle. Kind of modern looking architecture, out of this world kind of architecture, all colourful. Now I'm thinking Thor again, you know, the palace in Thor on Asgard, right? And then, you know, I'm already thinking this, and then later on there's shrinking technology. There's a bit where, you know, Dwayne Johnson's character throws something little and makes it big so he can use it. You know, he's doing it with cars and things like that. He's shrinking himself down to a smaller size to have fights, and then back up to a larger size, think Ant-Man, this sort of a thing, right? And I was thinking this before even that sort of technology came into play in the film. So, yeah, what I felt like I was watching was visually a Marvel film. So much so, in fact, that I had to look at the directors and the writers to see if they'd worked on anything Marvel, which they hadn't. I don't know if anyone else in the background of the films had or what, or if they just looked at a Marvel film as a blueprint for this movie. The film started off fine, okay? It started off fine with the exception of that aspect to it. But then we got into the territory of it kind of the story element dying. It is about halfway through that all of a sudden this story in this film just kind of hits a brick wall and it starts to slow down. The narrative slows and it starts to get somewhat boring and the film starts to overstay its welcome at its 2 hours and 3 minute runtime. May have been better to trim it by about 15-20 minutes and make it a bit sharper, a bit shorter. I don't think necessarily that Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans have much of camaraderie between them. I don't think they actually work on screen together very well. I did half expect Lucy Liu to be a villain of sorts, but it obviously didn't go that way. You had the witch played by the Sabrina actress, who just looks very young. She looks like a child, okay? That's exactly what she looks like. And this is the other part of it that felt very Marvel to me, is when she turned into her witch, the costume that she was wearing, very much, not the headwear, but the costume, reminded me of Hela in Thor Ragnarok. Dwayne Johnson's attire was very Marvel-esque kind of a look to it, and all this sort of a thing. So we've got an action film here, right? It's essentially an action film. You've got these creatures walking around like a big polar bear and these other things, you know, and again, they wouldn't necessarily be out of place in some sort of a Marvel or Star Wars project, so to speak. But I think that the biggest issue with me, the biggest issue with this film, and I got this from the beginning, almost from the beginning all the way through, is that I remember a time when Christmas films were magical. They had a sense of magic to them. You know, I'm thinking now like the Polar Express, you know, Elf. There's this magical element that makes you, this uplifting feel that Christmas films give you, that make you feel good, that make you, you know, love Christmas and have that Christmas spirit. And this film lacks it. This film lacks that. There's no magic in this film whatsoever. There's no Christmas magic to it. It doesn't give you a good sense of feeling by the end of it or anything like that. It's quite a mess of a film in that sense. I sat there and I said to my wife after we watched it, I said, well, that film is never going to be watched again. Seriously, you know, wow, the Marvel influence is strong in this one. Did you get that as well, having seen this film, if you've seen it? Or is this a film that interests you, doesn't interest you? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm always interested in other people's thoughts on films. It's all subjective. We all like what we like. We don't like what we don't. There we go. And unfortunately, this one here, although big budget, money on the screen, decent cast that didn't exactly gel, just didn't work for me. Win some, you lose some.